Imagine that you're 10 years old and you just drove 3 hours to get to the Asheboro Zoo. You run straight to the zoo map after your mom pays the admission to get in so you can find where the giraffe enclosure is. You've always loved giraffes and you can't wait to see them in real life. So you head straight there only to find an empty enclosure with no giraffes in sight. You notice a sign that lets you know that you've missed the giraffe feeding by almost an hour and the giraffes have now been put away for the day and you are not going to get to see any giraffes today. As a child, you're sad, disappointed, and probably thinking to yourself, this zoo really sucks. But in reality, not seeing every animal in every enclosure, or perhaps seeing them but from a far distance, is actually a good sign that the zoo is very humane. And knowing how to spot an inhumane versus a humane zoo is a good way to start making sure that you only support the good zoos. As Van Tulio describes in his 2008 book, Zoos and Animal Welfare, a trip to the zoo when very young is an important part of the curriculum in America. But as we mature, we learn that zoos represent captivity and often produce undesired, unhealthy results to its inhabitants. The harsh reality is, many zoos are inhumane. As a child, I always loved going to the zoo, and I really still do as an adult. Seeing the beautiful enclosures and the diverse exotic animals is always thrilling to me. But as an adult, going to the zoo has taken on a lot of different meaning to me. I now find myself immediately rating the zoo when I enter it on how humane I think it is. Do I think that the animals live a good life that live there? After hearing this speech, I hope that you'll start to do the same. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to go over the importance of humane zoos, examples of inhumanities that you find in zoos, and some zoo locations that are inhumane, how to spot an inhumane zoo if you're in one, and what you can do to help shut down inhumane zoos. So first, let's talk about the importance of humane zoos. I think it's important to note that this speech is not about trying to tell you that all zoos are bad. This is to let you know that inhumane zoos are bad, but the humane zoos are actually very positive for animals and people alike. They help to educate people, they help endangered species with their great breeding programs, and they also help the public to connect with wildlife, and in turn, a lot of those people end up becoming advocates for different species. According to the Association of Zoos and Aquariums on the 2019 AZA.org website, studies have shown that the AZA accredited zoos and aquariums enhance the public's understanding of wildlife and the need to conserve the places that animals live. So now for the not so fun stuff, inhumane policies that you find in a lot of zoos. And we're going to talk a lot about orcas and dolphins in this one. Most orcas and dolphins that are in captivity are kept in pens that are far too small for them. If you were to look at a dolphin in the wild, they typically can travel up to 40 miles in a day. And then you look at an enclosure that you can see in that PowerPoint there, they're far too small and it's inhumane that they live in those small enclosures. Most of the orcas and dolphins that you find in captivity have also been ripped from their family members or pods at a young age, and that's completely traumatic to them and they never quite recover from it. Also, orcas and dolphins are fed dead fish. They never get the chance to hunt, which is ingrained in them, and it's something they prefer to do, and they never get that chance when they're in captivity. Last, most orcas and dolphins are in shows that they're forced to perform on a normal basis. If they don't perform to standard, then they are punished, so inhumane. Now to talk about some of the specific examples of inhumane zoo locations. According to Sandra Fallon's April 2015 article, The 10 Most Inhumane Zoos in the World, the San Antonio Zoo, which is currently being investigated for violating the Endangered Species Act because of treatment of Lucky the elephant. Lucky the elephant lives in deplorable conditions and has lived in solitary confinement since her mate died almost 4 years ago. Elephants are not solitary animals and they're not meant to live alone, so it's inhumane that she's alone for more than 4 years. The Oradea Zoo in Romania, animals live in squalor there in unclean small cages, and most of them appear to have very poor body health. At one point, there was actually a lion pride that was there that attracted so much attention from the people that went to the zoo that the public raised $219,000 to transport 13 lions out of the zoo to get them to a new humane zoo. Yet somehow it's still open. The zoo is still open. The Dhaka Zoo in Bangladesh, according to the dailystar.com 2019 article about the Dhaka Zoo in Bangladesh, it was suspended and put under investigation in 2009 due to the large amount of animal deaths that they had there. It was found that 20 animals died due to inhumane conditions and complete negligence. But somehow, even after the investigation came to that conclusion, the zoo still remains to be open. The zoo does not have the budget, the space, or the medical facilities to properly care for the 57 species that it houses. And on to our next topic, how to spot inhumanities in a zoo. So small enclosures is an easy one. We just talked about dolphins and orcas, but another one is any animal that typically would migrate in the wild, for instance, an elephant. Elephants in the wild typically can travel up to 15 miles in one day. So if you stick them in a 100 by 100 enclosure in a zoo, it's really inhumane to put them in that small area. Also, low body weight. A lot of times you see a large animal in a zoo. Just because it's large doesn't mean it's the right weight. An average lion should weigh 420 pounds. So even though you see a lion from maybe afar or up close, it looks really big. If it's not 420 pounds, it's probably not at a healthy weight. Cloudy eyes are something that you might see if the animal's up close to you. It's a sign of disease or infection. No stimulation for animals. Most animals are very intelligent and they need stimulation for their brains from day to day. Unclean walkways and bathrooms. If you see that at a zoo, if the public areas are not kept clean, then chances are the areas that the public cannot see are deplorable. And then also a dead giveaway that animals are unhappy is animals pacing in their enclosures. Anytime you see an animal pacing in their enclosure, it's a sign of depression and or anxiety. Lastly, I want to review with you what you can do to help shut down inhumane zoos. So the first thing you can do is sign petitions. That's an easy one. There's a really great website called Care to Petitions website. If you go to that website, you go to the search bar on it and you type in inhumane zoos, you can unfortunately find tons and tons of petitions that you can sign. Having knowledge of what makes a zoo inhumane is really important, which we just discussed a lot of ways that you can figure that out if you're in a zoo that's inhumane. Third, when you see inhumanities, take pictures, post videos. Negative publicity for a zoo is a great way to try and get them to clean up their act. So if they deserve the negative publicity, then post it. Lastly, write to the political figures or people with power that are in the area. Send pictures and videos again and trying to appeal to their emotions. So to close, yes, zoos are an important part of our society. It's important that we know where inhumane zoos are, how to tell the difference between an inhumane or a humane zoo, and or how to fight for the animals that have no voice. It's up to us to ensure that humane zoos thrive and the inhumane ones are held to current law and standards or they are shut down. So the next time that you visit a zoo, I hope you find yourself judging it, and I hope that if you don't see your favorite animal in its enclosure, that you find happiness in that. Thank you.